back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. Today we're going to check out another unpopular request, this one only having one, from Tisha Liz requesting KAMELOT, Elizabeth Parts 1, 2, and 3, live in Norway. I'm not sure if this is the live in Norway. It's taken from the DVD One Cold Winter's Night, but I checked the audio in it a little bit just to make sure that it was listenable, and it sounds studio quality, so I'm going to assume that maybe they took the music from the live event and processed it and kind of tuned it up a little bit for this video for the DVD release. So we're gonna roll with it, and we're gonna see what KAMELOT can bring to the table. Can't say I've heard of this band before. I spell it with a K. Yeah, that's wrong. KAMELOT starts with a C, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, let's get into this. And play.
From our album Karma, this song is about vanity, it's about beauty, it's about growing old, it's about evil. This song is called Elizabeth.
All right. Audience members can't clap in time. That's pretty standard. Everybody rushes in a group. Definitely setting a mood for this piece.
Mirror, can you tell me how to stay forever young? Let me know the secret, I will hold my twisted tongue. Please protect my beauty, velvet skin so pure and white. Hear my name resounding like a hymn at dead of night.
Very nice falsetto. Great control, lots of little vibrato flourishes. He likes to do these vocal slides too. Just right there. It almost always slides down. That's just his natural thing he does. But he did it quite a few times. Definitely something he just does without thinking about.
Uncorrupted, calm and red. Voices keep resounding in my days bewildered head.
I'm really digging his chest voice. There's a lot of power there, but he's not really losing a lot of the range that he had with his head voice. This is I would actually say it's a mix, but it sounds real good. good tasteful solo for what's going on in the music. Very theatrical bands. And this, what I would assume this would be part 2. Very nice. I've noticed in heavier parts, they definitely tend to have more of a 90s sounds, but they're masters of embellishing what would typically be more of a standard 90s riff and kind of turning it into something that sounds more. I don't know if it's totally unique to them. But those little 16th note triplets in between the pedal notes, those are those little embellishments I'm talking about. They could easily not do that and still have the same power and energy, but it makes the song just a little bit more technical and kind of gives a personal flair onto, like I said, you know, popular mid-90s ideas. Crowd's loving it. I wonder when this song was released, when it was created. See, any other band would have just kept sticking with the straight notes, but this one puts in those little embellishments. We put a little triplet run in. Although I guess those aren't triplet runs, those are like 2 30-seconds and then a 16th. Because the third part of the note is always held out a little longer. Lots of energy and power going on here. Got a big build-up going. Dude, I love his voice. Does he have a lot of reverb during that part on his vocals, or was there a choir backing track there? I was trying to see if anybody else was singing. I don't see anybody else on the microphone though. I mean, it was a good choice. It kind of gives his voice kind of the width that it needs to command that powerful section. Those little embellishments. They're like drum fills for guitars. Speaking of the drum, I haven't really talked about it much, but it hasn't. The drummer hasn't really done anything ear catching. Normally you'd say eye catching, but you know we're listening. No, that's a bad joke. But yeah, I haven't. I mean, he's a good drummer. He's keeping the time, doing a fantastic job of being the metronome, driving the sections, but nothing that really stands out to me, which is fine. Even with a drum, a crowd can't stop from rushing. Oh man, I wonder if there's any psychology behind that. I know that's like way off topic, but every band I've been to where they cut out and let the crowd sing, they always rush all the time. You know, I was gonna say I like how much the singer commits to his bit, but I don't think it's a bit. I think he just loves acting out how the music makes him feel. At the end of it? Wow. Okay. Jeez, I didn't even hear the split between parts 2 and 3. I didn't realize it was over. That was good. Yeah. So, yeah, Camelot, man. That's, I really dig that. That's good stuff. It's like, I don't know, there's a lot of theater and orchestral symphonic influences on it. It's, kind of reminds me of, who's that? Nightwish, I think it was. I don't remember. I think it was Nightwish. Yeah. It's got that same kind of vibe though, where it's has a lot of like symphonic and classical influence to it. Not necessarily so much in chord progression and the compositional style, but an aim to replicate that kind of atmosphere. it aims to sound like it on a superficial level rather than emulating it on a compositional level. And I don't mean that as a slight against bands that do that. I don't mean superficial in a negative way. I just mean that it aims to sound like it to an untrained ear. If you don't know what classical music sounds like, Renaissance music, Baroque music, you listen to this and it sounds like classical music. You have the strings in there and the big, like the epic sections, and it has a very wide sound. It doesn't sound like pure rock. It sounds like it has a classical influence, even though they're not using compositional musical techniques of the era. They're replicating the sound of the era. So that's pretty interesting. But let's see. Yeah, it's a very theatric band though. And I know I don't usually talk about the performative side of bands. That's not really my expertise, but there's definitely a performative aspect to this band. I don't know if I would say it's a gimmick, but it's definitely a part. I would say, at least according to this video, which is all I know about the band, it seems to be part of their core identity. The show, the lights, the acting. You had the one woman up there pretending to be, I assume, to be Elizabeth, and the singer was talking about her asking the mirror how to stay young, and she was actually sitting in front of a mirror. You had the lead singer pretending to be dead or knocked unconscious or something, laying on the floor in a very uncomfortable position. I mean, legs bent back and head resting on a stair step. So, full commitment to the idea of showing the story as well as telling it. But I think moving on to the music, the real key aspect to this group, I think, and I stated it while listening, is the embellishment. They basically take what would be a standard 90s metal sound, whatever you would call Metallica, I guess, in the late 80s, early 90s. Not necessarily hair metal, but what kind of evolved from hair metal. But it's lots of writing open strings and then playing a couple notes at the end, like and you always have that bass line, the open note that you just kind of hold out between your riffs, your shorter riffs. But they find a way to embellish that idea. They change it up a little bit, and I called them drum fills for guitars, and I think that's pretty apt. That at the end of a 4-bar phrase of this, you hitting a low note multiple times and then doing a short 3 or 4 note riff, but then they'll even embellish upon that, and the 3 or 4 note riff might have a little trill in it or whatever. I don't know what you would call it. I mean, it's a trill is what you would call it on a wind instrument. But just like hitting a note, going above it, a half step, whole step, and then coming back down, you get that da, and you kind of put that in between some of the other notes in your normal riff, and it makes it sound very technical, even though you're not doing anything technically difficult. I mean they're playing it at a good speed, and I'm not gonna say it's completely easy to do, but they find these little ways to add short ideas to change up the way that the phrasing sounds. So they're changing the phrasing constantly. Little ideas of embellishment, and it happens all throughout the band. You see it in the guitars often, but the keyboardist did it quite a bit. Even in his solo, he pretty much stuck with straight notes. They were eighth or 16th notes. They were fairly fast, but not ridiculous speed. But every once in a while, he would put notes that are half the length in there. So if they were 16th, every once in a while you hear a couple of 30-second notes to fill a gap. And just those little pieces of speed interwoven in there to give it a sense of technicality and to kind of change it up. And that's kind of what Camelot is to me. It's taking standard things and changing it up a little bit. If you took out all those little embellishments and all the little flares, I think you could end up with, well, I'm pretty sure you would end up with a standard 90s song, 90s metal song. And again, that's not a slight against them. It's actually a genius that the core identity of the song is something very familiar to people, and I think it's kind of a gateway into more progressive or more technical music for people who would not typically listen to something hyper progressive or super technical. It kind of provides a middle ground for people who enjoy more of the simple stuff, but aren't exactly opposed to more technical things, but it still needs to be something they can wrap their brain around. Um, Kind of like in the mid 40s, early to mid 40s, when bebop came around, a lot of people couldn't listen to bebop. It was too technical for them. It was more of music for musicians. And so they always had swing and big bands that the average consumer could listen to. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here, where you could go listen to your standard. I guess you wouldn't call it radio rock. This kind of music wasn't really played on the radio, given the time frame. I like that. I don't know what time this came out in. I'm kind of guessing it's kind of in the 90s, but I don't know. But it has that 90s feel. But basically, people who would enjoy that kind of music, it gives them an alternative between bebop and swing. There's something in the middle. There's not full consumer. There's not full musician. There's something in the middle where a consumer could kind of appreciate more technical aspect of music without it going completely over their head and being too difficult for them to listen to. And I think that's where Camelot sits, and I think it's a very important part to sit at. You do need gateway media to help you get into more technical things. Most people are not going to jump from listening to, Metallica or Nirvana or whatever and go straight into Meshuggah. It's that jump isn't going to happen for a majority of people. You need to ease them in. Just like even with the metal genre, you typically can't throw people into the deep end if all they've listened to is techno or pop or country or even rock. Talk about alt rock or radio rock or even some of the heavier rock that you listen to on the radio. They're not going to make the jump from that into some of the heavier metals. You're going to need to ease them into it. And I think that's where Camelot sits. And like I said, I think it's an important band, an important playing type, because it helps people transition from listening to more commercial, more easily understood music into some of the more technical stuff. And like I said, it sits at it sits a lot closer, I think, to the more commercial metal. And like I said, that's good because it's less of a jump for people to get into it. At its core, it still sounds very familiar to a lot of people, but it has these little bits of technicality that I think even your average listener could appreciate. And then once they get a taste for that, they're like, "Oh, I need music that's music that's on the same level." And then maybe they want something a little more, and eventually they can find their way to more technical bands. So yeah. Yeah, I dig Camelot. I dig the sound. The lead singer's just amazing voice especially for what it's doing. It has a theatric edge to it, but it isn't like Devin Townsend where I feel like he comes from theater. I think just like how the band emulates the sound of classical music, I feel like his voice emulates the sound of theatrical singing. He isn't singing as if he's in a theater, but his singing sounds theatrical. It sounds like he comes from an upbringing of theatrical singing. And it's more of the element of texture rather than the actual physical style. I don't really think he's singing as if he's trying to project to the back of an amphitheater with no sound system. It's definitely not as wide and as high volume as chesty as like Devon's, but it has the elements. When I hear it, I think of theater singing, even though it isn't mechanically, physically theater singing. Really weird, but really cool that this band can evoke ideas from genres and playing styles and composition styles, even though they're not actually borrowing the ideas from those genres and styles. So yeah, Camelot's it's good stuff. Good stuff all around. That's where you guys come in though. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. There is only one request for this band. Has anyone else heard of them? I sure haven't. That was a treat. I love when I can go into something blind and just be blown away. But did you guys get blown away? You know, was this too basic for you? I know we do a lot of stuff on the fringe, real technical stuff, real heavy stuff, and this was quite a departure, especially from I think it was last week's videos or maybe the weeks before, where we just happened to do like 2 or 3 really proggy songs. I don't remember. Weeks are kind of blending together for me. I don't know about you guys. I've lost track of time with this social distancing. But yeah, so what'd you guys think of Camelot? Good stuff, bad stuff? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And we're almost at 5,000 subscribers. I think we're exactly at 4,900. It's only 100 left. And YouTube says we're going to hit that 5,000 real soon. If you guys want to see that Q&A sooner than later, make sure you share this out. Tell your friends about it. Tell your families about it. Make your dog a YouTube account so he can subscribe to the channel. If you don't have a dog, imaginary dogs work anyways. You can always make a YouTube channel for an imaginary animal you have. Nope, a YouTube account. Man, I almost had that. Had to screw it up at the end. Anyways, though, yep, at 5,000 we're doing the Q&A. I guess I'm going to start fielding questions soon. If you guys want to ask me any questions, put them down in the comments. I also have a Twitter, twitter.com/critreactions. Yep. All one word, obviously. Twitter handles don't have spaces. And if you're on my Patreon, you can go ahead and ask me there. You can either direct message or comment on any of the blog posts. I'm going to be looking everywhere and anywhere, trying to keep an eye on all of the places you can contact me, so that we can get all the questions in, and I can start to prepare answers and put the video together. I'd like to get the video out as close to the 5,000 mark as possible, but you know, no promises. My schedule's kind of chaotic as it is, and I'm trying to do more stuff too. I got some cool stuff set up in the future. I'm going to attempt to do 6 videos. Well, I think oh man, 6 videos is what I'm trying to aim for, but I really want to get 7 out. The 5 core videos that I do every day, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. I try to get them out at 11 a.m. Where I react to songs and bands voted on by my Patreon, selected from my extensive We Broke 450 Unique Bands reaction list. So that's that. But I also want to have a dedicated day to Patreons, where I will ask one of my Patreons to give me a song to listen to. It doesn't have to be on my list. It could be a specific song. It could be a specific performance of a specific song. I don't care. Once a week, one of my Patreons will be able to tell me exactly what they want me to react to, and I'll do it. The other video that I want to do is an old band video. Not necessarily the band's old, but I want to revisit band video. At least once a week, I want to check out an additional song from one of the bands I've reacted to. 450 bands is a lot to go through, and if I only react to 5 new bands a week, which leaves no place to revisit bands, it's still going to take me years to complete this list. So I'm going to try to revisit bands on top of the typical 5 video schedule. So yeah, this is it's gonna take a lot more time, effort, work, um, and I don't know if I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I actually have less time to do these videos with the um, social distancing, staying at home thing because my daughter's at home from school. So we do like 3 to 4 hours of schoolwork every day with her online learning, and I also watch my niece because my stepbrother still works. He has an essential job, so he's an essential employee. So I help babysit his niece during the week too. So I have less time than usual, and I'm trying to do more videos, which is kind of dumb that I'm deciding to do it now, but it's gonna help take my mind off of things, going stir crazy sitting at home. Um, but what helps a lot, if anyone can spare it, is helping out with my Patreon. It's only $1 to join. You get access to voting. You can shape what tracks are coming up in the future, what bands are looked at in the future, and like I said, I'm adding more things all the time. We're going to be doing this Patreon Selects Day where every person gets to pick a song, so that's even more ways to shape how the channel grows and what bands get picked for it. So if any of that sounds interesting, I could certainly use the help, but please don't stretch yourself thinner than you can. I know everybody's kind of in a sticky situation here. Lots of people getting laid off and unemployment skyrocketing. So don't do what you can't. But if you do want to help the channel and can feasibly afford to do so, I appreciate anything that you can throw my way. It helps a lot, and I'm trying to make the channel bigger to kind of make everybody's support, whether it's financial or if you're just helping out with shares or whatever. I'm trying to make it worth more than it was yesterday. So always trying to add more value to what I give to you guys. So, all right, I feel like I've rambled on long enough. Jeez, this kind of turned into a long outro. But I got some things on my mind, and I got a camera in front of me, so I guess I'm gonna say them. But yeah, so regular outs, rewind. All right, so what we're gonna do is down in the comments, let me know about KAMELOT. Let me know about I guess Q&A questions. I'm gonna start fielding them. We'll probably be doing that video in a week or two, maybe 3 at the longest. I haven't really checked the growth rate, but I can't believe it's shrunk too much. So I'm gonna say another week or two. We'll be at 5,000. We'll have the Q&A video out. So start asking me questions for that. And, like, subscribe, ring the bell. Everybody be safe. And I'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. as usual, with another reaction. Have a fantastic day.